Welcome back to AOL Build at the South by Southwest Interactive Festival. I'm here right now. Our next segment sort of dropped out, so we just picked up a couple kids, and we're going to interview them. No, I'm here with the cast, the crew, the producers, everybody from the movie The Boy, and there's far too many of them for me to go down the line and introduce everybody. So I'm going to start right here. You guys introduce yourselves and say what you did on the film.
Hi, I'm Aiden, and I'm Ben in the film. My name is Jared Breeze, and in the film The Boy, I'm the boy.
I'm not in the movie.
Rainn Wilson. I am an actor, and I play William in the movie The Boy.
David Morse here, and I played the boy's dad.
I'm Craig. I am the director, editor, and co-writer.
Hey, I'm Clay, and I'm the other co-writer.
I am Josh Waller, and I am one part of Spectrevision, and we are producers.
I'm Daniel Noah, the other part of Spectrevision. My daughter's name is Lucy Noah. Hi, Lucy.
I'm Elijah, and I'm the last part of Spectrevision, and we were producers on the film. Hi, Lucy.
Lucy, thanks so much for watching. So, guys, thanks so much for being here, all of you. Craig, let's start with you. Start with where this movie came from. I could be wrong, but I had the impression that it started from a short. And did it build into this feature?
Yeah. Before that, though, it started with a novel that Clay here wrote. It was titled Miss Corpus. And there's a chapter in that novel titled The Henley Road Motel, which I really wanted to turn the chapter into a feature. So we started with a short. And the short did well. It played some festivals, won some awards. And through that, the guys over here at Spectrevision saw the short and were interested in turning that into a feature with us. So, the whole plan worked miraculously.
So, Spectrevision, when you guys see a short that you want to turn into a feature, what are your next steps? What notes are you giving? How are you developing that? Or did he already sort of have that feature pretty much planned?
Well, this is the first time, so and the only time to date. I think at first it was just about coming together and making sure that we saw the same film. And we had pitched them the idea of expanding what was a very short piece into a trilogy of films, of which The Boy is the first, about the childhood of a future mass murderer. And this was something that they had already been thinking about, which is kind of suggested in the short, but not really entirely expressed. And we kind of had this. We came together around this shared vision of depicting in a very real way what that looks like, and we were off and running.
You get the sense with this character, the boy, and we should maybe even say for everybody what the film is about, but you get a sense that, like stories that you read about mass murderers or serial killers, he's extremely lonely, and his murders are about kind of taking something with him to a degree, rather than just sort of hurting people. Now I'm going to take that question to you, because I'm sure you've got a lot of insight on what was it like for you to play a child mass murderer?
Well, you certainly had to get into the moment a lot.
What does that mean?
That means you really had to pretend, like you had to think about something that made you either angry, sad, relieved, or any of that, like acting.
Oh, okay. All right, Olivier, take it easy on me.
Acting, stupid.
Yeah, and we don't like actors, right? No, we do not. No, we do not.
You guys don't like actors?
Nope, and we definitely are not actors.
So you're not actors and you don't like actors. Can you explain this to me?
Fantasy.
I got you. Thanks for the condescending pat, too. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Rainn, you have a scene with him in the film where you really sort of pick him up, you push him up against the wall, you scream in his face. You go after him, basically, in a moment. Have you ever had to do that with a child actor before?
Well, I have a lot of experience with my wife. So, kidding. And now we're going to be flooded with front page of Huffington Post, Rainn Wilson, misogynistic, horrible wife beater.
I have a chip in my brain that's already putting that headline into CMS right now.
It was a challenge. First of all, I just want to say this kid right here, Jared Breeze, is unbelievable in this film. I mean, absolutely riveting performance. He drives it from the first frame to the final frame.
Gee.
And, no, it was very difficult to have a scene where I have to rage at him and threaten physical violence and push him into a bed, and it's so hard because you have to be convincing, but you have a floppy little 9-year-old boy, and it was
Exactly.
scary.
And you're
Yeah.
you're
Did you
incredibly
just call me
convincing.
floppy?
You're a floppy kid. Let's face it. You're not one of those like stalwart little like spark plug motor kids. You're floppy. Uh oh, there he is.
He's going into mass murder mode. This is. So Rainn, when you're
Death.
But there are many challenges of working with child actors that
Such
I've
as
done.
what?
Don't make me get
I don't
the
know what the
horn.
challenge is.
Honestly,
He's pretty on. Like,
But let me say that working with Jared was fantastic. He's really professional. He would always know all his lines and be, when it was time to roll, was completely there. So it was a privilege to work with him. Honestly, and I know there's no joke behind this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I kind of just want to let you take this over. Do you want to run the interview? I
Go
would
ahead,
love
Jared,
that.
you
I
can
think
do
it would
it.
be fantastic. Okay, ask someone a
You
question.
got a question
Pose
for David?
Question.
Um.
Yeah, throw David a question here.
What was it like being a mass murderer's dad?
What's it like being a
Interesting.
mass murderer? You're asking me this, like in my real life?
No.
No. I
In the
in
film.
the film.
Yeah.
Well, I was not actually the mass murderer in this film.
Dad.
Oh, the dad. Oh, the dad. I'm sorry. Well, you know what? Part of what I think was actually interesting about this movie is playing the dad in it. I think parents might relate to this. Is there a certain amount of denial that can sometimes happen in your life with your children? You want to believe the best about your children. And I think within this script that even though there are things that I, as the father, sense are going on, I don't really want to know what those things are. I think it's a very smart part of the storytelling in this story. So it's not that I really knew that this was going on as a dad, but I have this horrible sensation that something very bad is going on.
And
Well,
pro tip, if you watch the movie, do not be like the dad in the movie.
Why is that?
Did you just say pro tip? Oh my God, Jared, genius.
Have you been hanging out in LA a lot? What was that?
I
Pro
live
tip.
in LA.
Actually, no. He's at the South by Southwest Interactive Festival. Pro tip, guys.
Exactly.
Going to conferences?
Not lately.
Life hack. If you're a child, don't kill things. Boom.
Well, it's interesting when you say that the denial of this character being like that, because there were so many moments in the film when I was watching it where he was just alone, running around, and you were like, I'm sure Dad's busy with the hotel, but he really didn't seem to be.
It's a
paying that
motel,
much
not a
attention.
hotel.
Yeah, no, that's part of what the story is about. If you want to know, it takes place in a motel that's really has been bypassed. The world is totally bypassed, and the wife and the mother has abandoned both myself and his character. So we really are alone on the side of this mountain in this spectacular valley. It's supposed to be in the Colorado mountains.
It plays in
And
Colombia.
we both are alone. We both are really alone with our kind of abandonment, but he especially. Being the boy, we get to see a lot of this, and again, it's pretty darn moving and fascinating.
And the majority of his relationships are forged with people who leave him, or even dead creatures that he finds. I mean, there's very clearly a relationship early on with this character and death. Clive, do you want to talk about it?
Well, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, what we were trying to do with Ted's character is this notion of you strip away a lot of what makes childhood a part of every person's facet, like our life. Like when I was a kid growing up in the South, I had so much time on my own, left to my own devices. I think it's just the intersection of several specific events that leads to Ted becoming what he is. And you almost want to think in the film that if this one thing didn't happen in tandem to this other thing, that the future of Ted could be something completely different. But it's just for the fact that this perfect storm of stuff just happened at this one moment.
But
It leads to...
At the same time, that perfect storm could kind of happen to one person, but who's not building to dealing with that perfect storm
Yeah.
a certain way.
Yes, yes, but I think like what's interesting about this character is that you're, as an audience member, our hope is that you're constantly praying that, like, you know, there's a kind of angel and devil on the shoulder, and you want it to kind of go one way, and you feel like there's certain moments in the film where it eases this in this direction, but then it gets pulled back into another direction. So yeah.
What I love about the script and what Craig, our first time and very brilliant director, did is that there's nothing is on the nose, and you have a father who is a terrible father, but yet you feel for David's character so much. He brings so much heart and pathos, and he wants to be a good dad. He really does. He just doesn't have the tools to be able to love his son in the way he needs to be loved. And all of the characters are like that. There's no one good, there's no one bad. There is just really deeply psychologically etched human beings kind of at the edge of the world in this motel environment. And then you watch things disintegrate. And it's beautifully told. I'm really excited about the visuals of it as well. But really, like, Craig, I'd love to hear a little bit more for you, because I just love the way that you had this vision of the story and how it needed to be told visually and also emotionally, and you were so able to keep everyone on track with that. And that's a really rare skill set. Hit it. You look amazing, by the way, too.
Thank you. That's
One,
you.
two,
You dress
three.
up nice.
You know, I don't know. I had a very specific idea for the film and a very specific tone and mood and pace to it.
How could you best define that tone, mood, and pace?
That's a good question. I don't know.
That's why I'm up here. Sorry.
You know, I don't know. But what I do know is that I feel like there's a lot of filmmakers in my spot with their first-time features, and they may create the film that they want to create, and their producers and the financiers, whoever it is, steer it in a different direction. And I just feel so fortunate that these guys back here trusted me, and they gave me the freedom to do the story that I wanted to do. So I just feel lucky, and I feel like there's a lot of people who were in my spot that doesn't happen. So.
But I also think there's, you know, in this kind of film, which is, you can't really say it's a horror film, but it's certainly a creepy and tense film. I think there's a lot of pressure sometimes to compromise and put in elements that titillate.
Absolutely.
It's a
to
psychological
sell
thriller,
the
not
movie.
a horror.
What's that?
It's a psychological thriller, not a horror.
Psychological thriller. I'll see if I can remember that.
Pro tip, David.
Okay,
Psychological thriller.
Psychological thriller. Psychological. Okay,
Pro
but those things that you
pronunciation.
know, the easy things in the storytelling that never came from these guys as producers. It was always about telling the story in a really a simpler and truer way, with the same kind of tension and thrills, but without the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tribute to them that they supported that kind of film.
Absolutely.
But that was also present in the short film as well, and I think that's what was so exciting and moving to us, is the pace of the short is very similar to that of the feature, and I think we wanted to truly extend the short into a more fully fleshed out, fully realized interior journey of this character, to see where that would go. But we didn't want to eschew the pace, because I think that's what's so terribly exciting about the short, is that you are in this boy's mind internally. And I think if you were to have the fear that, you know, you're going to lose your audience by interjecting sort of moments of excitement, I don't know, it takes away from what's so evocative about being in that child's mind as he starts to evolve in ways that you don't want him to.
Well, even when he evolves in ways that you don't want him to, and the climax comes of the film, I don't want to give any spoilers away. Even though as terrible as it is, because you're in his mind, it is as cathartic for you as the viewer as it is for him, the boy.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know if everyone's going to feel that way. That might just be my psychology when it comes to murders and movies. But
That's our hope. So it's good to hear.
Death.
Well, and I love what you guys said, that it's a very interesting challenge, as you were saying, Rainn, to make an agreement, a pact that there are no villains in a film, that everyone is coming from a place of wanting to be loved and healthy, and And what Clay and Craig did was build this incredible calibration of human beings who are all trying to do the right thing, but they're all damaged in exactly the right way that this is going to explode. And I think that's unusual in films, that there's no villain.
Why was it 1989 that you said? Why 1989?
You know, honestly, it was Clay and I didn't want to have cell phones in the script. It was one of the reasons. You know, we like the idea of these people just feeling trapped without any place to go, without any connection to the outside world.
And I feel like when you bring cell phones in, you bring instant messaging or you bring text messaging. It's not just that it's safety. I think people also have a tendency to associate those with lack of connection rather than connection, and they can kind of put that on the character as a reason that they might not be connected to human beings as well.
Our boy just spends a lot of his time, you know, with his own thoughts, and you know, he might not be doing these things if he had a cell phone or something to play with other than his wild imagination.
So, Elijah, has the good son come up at all when you're doing press for this movie?
Every 5 minutes.
No.
You know that I'm really sorry. Like, you know, it's just
Not
like it was impossible not to do that.
Not every 5 minutes, but it did come up last night in the Q&A where someone said asked if it was an influence. It was a facepalm moment for me.
Did you think when you went into making it, though, that when you were doing this for the movie, you'd be like, I'm going to have to answer some good son questions?
It didn't occur to me. Maybe it's a lack of self-awareness. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was so focused on the storytelling that I didn't. Now it has. But I certainly see. But I think the difference, too, is that, you know, if we do bring that movie into the fold, that is very much a retelling of the bad seed. This what I think excited us about this particular film is it's not a bad seed movie. It's not a killer kid movie. It's so much deeper than that. Not entirely, my friend. No, not entirely.
Seems like one.
I think it's about human beings and what is happening psychologically within all of us, and how human experience can shape or mold the direction and the path that we're on. And we're all. I've been very fascinated, as I think my partners have been, in the psychology of serial killers, as they're all human beings that start somewhere. And I've always been so fascinated at the notion of where that begins and what a childhood is like for a Ted Bundy or a Dahmer. And to a certain degree, this movie allows for a little exploration about that.
Right.
I got something on that. I love this psychology stuff of that. Have you guys heard of the wire monkey experiment, where baby monkeys who are taken away from their mothers would rather be bonded to a fake wire monkey covered in fake fur and hold on to that than the ones that were really abandoned by their mothers and just left alone would kind of go cuckoo and go nuts. And there's a lot of that in this film. I remember I was talking to my therapist. There's about isolation and this disintegration of the human element in extreme isolation. And I was talking to my therapist about my son who's 10 years old, and I was like, I noticed my son doesn't really like to be alone much, and if we ask him to like read in his room or something like that, he just wants to be around people, and should I be worried about this? And the therapist was like, no, and look at human interaction since the dawn of time. Like, we're communal. You know, it takes a village. Kids want to be around the grandmothers and the aunts and the uncles in the caves and in the villages and around the fires, and that's how human beings are meant to be. It is actually a dangerous thing for a human being to be remote, detached from, separated from, and to spend too much time alone. We're communal creatures, and I think this film explores that idea in a really interesting way.
What's Spectrevision's goal in terms of filmmaking? Are you sticking mainly to horror and thrillers or dark content, or are you branching out of that?
Well, genre is our focus, with a particular interest in horror. But I think what we have really set out to do is, I like to use this phrase that genre is a Trojan horse. That it's we've interestingly, horror and genre are considered some of the most reliable genres in terms of the economics, and yet we kind of looked at each other and said, why isn't anyone using this sustainability to reach beyond exploitation, to actually address issues that are more pertinent to our day-to-day lives in a direct way? And so I think our hope is, we've started we've started small with a number of small films that hopefully have content that is as resonant as a film a drama, say, that has genre elements. And I think our hope is that we can keep doing that and knock out as many as we can before they figure out how to shut us down.
So you two are buddies in the film, right? Sort of?
Kind of.
Talk to me about your friendship in the movie.
It's a really hard relationship. Let's just say that.
We were friends, and then you have to watch the movie.
A little showman, aren't you?
Maybe.
I'd say definitely.
It's kind of hard. He really wants to say what happens, but.
All right, guys.
Don't work with
Yeah.
animals or children.
Yeah.
W.C. Fields.
David, you've directed as well. You've also been in the industry for quite a while now. When you're working with a first time filmmaker, do you have trouble sort of not stepping behind the camera a little bit, giving any sort of advice or helping out at all?
Maybe we should ask our director if I have that problem. I don't think that I do. I've worked with a bunch of first time directors. And I definitely have thoughts. It's hard not to have thoughts. And I did a movie with Charles Bronson towards the end of his career called Indian Runner, and it was Sean Penn's first film.
That's an incredible film.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me interject and tell you my opinion.
Yeah, thanks. But with Charles was another guy who had been around for a long time. He literally knew everybody's job. He knew how to do the boom guy's job better than the boom guy. He knew the camera. He knew how lenses were. He knew everything. And I loved working with him. But you just see it was so hard for him to have patience when things are slowing down, of not wanting to jump in there and just say, do this, do this, do this. Let's keep moving. Let's get this thing made. It's not helpful. I've been on things where an actor literally is telling the director how to direct, and it's really uncomfortable for the crew. It's uncomfortable for everybody. Josh?
Why are you guys laughing back there? Someone's got a story to tell.
Sorry, we were sharing stories about doing that with first-time directors. Sorry, I'm sorry, David.
I'd like to hear this story.
You don't want to. You don't want to hear
this story.
Yeah,
You don't
come
want to
on,
hear the
Rainn.
story. No.
The story. The story. The story.
Cut that kid's mic.
But
The
I
story.
want to chime in really quickly, just talking about this. Part of the reason, part of the founding principles of our company was, and it relates to what Wayne was saying about, like, we're a social species. We like to surround ourselves with people, and I think that's also when the best things seem to happen, is when you fully communicate and you can remove ego from the equation and just talk about whoever has the best ideas. Whether that's coming from like the writer, director, producers, or that's coming from the lead actors, or that's coming from a PA, or someone who does transpo, and he says, hey, I have this crazy idea, and you go, it would be foolish to go, it's probably not good. Just hear the guy out,
truck,
because
buddy.
it might be incredible. It might, everyone forget, like, James Cameron was a truck driver. Like, you know what I'm saying? Well, he was developing everything that made him who he is. And with Rainn and David specifically, we've worked with them both before, and you call them back, because they're brilliant and we love to watch them work and work with them, but also because they're going to come with so many awesome ideas to the table. They come with, like, the tool chest and just goes, if you need to borrow any of this, just let us know. And we usually try to, because it would be foolish not to.
Craig, did you have any big fears going into shooting your first feature? Did they help you out with sort of alleviating any of that fear that you may have had?
Ooh.
No, I came in really, really prepared. Everything was storyboarded. I even shot lots of scenes with a little point-and-shoot camera and edited them together so I know that they would work. But as soon as we got our cast, like a lot of your job as a director is kind of done if you can cast right, like these guys. And so they brought a lot to the table. And like we had met a few times before filming, and he had already made his character so much bigger than it had been on the page. So it was a lot of, I think for me it was all in the preparation. And then when I got to set, I was able to just relax and keep the eye on the prize and just try to finish the movie.
Well,
I have to say that the the biggest obstacle and challenge of this entire movie, and it hasn't really been talked about, is that we shot it in Colombia, South America, doubling for Colorado, because for certain cost considerations and certain things that happen in the movie, it was a much better idea. Plus, there's tax incentives from the country of Colombia. So the challenges of the film really weren't in shooting the film. It was really like working with a very inexperienced Colombian crew and some incredibly difficult circumstances around them. Like the Colombians getting drunk and taking the main picture car and crashing it into a tree at 4 a.m. and stuff like that. Those were the main.
Did that happen?
Those were the main obstacles that we were up against and that Craig was dealing with. It was some of it was pretty hysterical.
And yet, Craig never wavered. I think your confidence the entire time. I mean, so much of directing is also reacting, but you had such confidence and such patience, and sort of completely unwavering focus, despite the fact that things were very complicated. And it was an extraordinary thing to watch on a daily basis as you sort of this whirlwind was surrounding us, and you just kept laser focus, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, he would kind of consistently, if it was something that he thought that maybe I need to worry about this, he would come up and be like, do I need to worry about this? And we'd be like, no. You go do your thing. Hey, it looks great. The footage looks awesome. And he'd go away, and we'd be like, Jesus.
I turn around after walking away just to see what Waller's doing. He's like pale white and running.
Looks good. Great job, buddy.
But the interesting thing that brought up about shooting there is it's kind of the land that time forgot, and it looks like this almost like plasticine, weird environment where the light and the trees and the way things are it's not quite right. Everything is just off, and it makes it especially unsettling. It's really cool.
Absolutely, it's a great film. We got to wrap it up, guys. And usually
Let's just keep talking. Come on.
Usually I do my wrap out to the camera, but I want you to do it. I want you to just look at the camera and say goodbye and say stick around. There's more coming up.
Goodbye and stick around.
We have more coming up.
There it is.
Wow.